From the studios of Foxborough Cable Access, located in the center of Foxborough, Massachusetts, you are watching Around Foxborough.
Hello, and welcome to Around Foxborough, the show where we talk about the people, places, and things that make Foxborough the gem of Norfolk County. My name is Mark Rivard, and I'm pleased to have as my guests Andrew Bernstein and Chris Long. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I hear we're going to talk about MAP. Can you tell us what MAP is?
The MAP. It's
The MAP.
The MAP. Mental Health and Addiction Podcast. It's where we discuss a little bit more beyond what other people discuss. We try to talk about things that people don't talk about when it comes to mental health and addiction.
Okay, so how did this come about?
Well, so may I interject?
Absolutely, please do.
So there's 46 million Americans that are suffering right now with mental health issues, and obviously the opioid crisis. There's like 78,000.
I don't even know.
77,000, right? The numbers are
Crazy.
staggering.
Right.
So so obviously there was a need there to help people with media to help educate and bring to light what's going on out there, because everybody has a different misconception of what it is, and so that's kind of what we're hoping to accomplish with the show. But the backstory is, because there's always a backstory.
There's always a backstory. So you guys were doing a podcast down on the Cape, and you invited me to be a guest.
Yes.
And they fell in love with me. Can you believe that? They fell in love with me.
How can we not fall in love with you, Chris? Come on.
So then the next thing was like, I got a phone call and I got invited to be a co-host with our third person that's in this, Kimberly Walsh. And we jumped on it, and we're actually a really good team. We all get along, and we have great conversation, and we each have something to bring to the table. So it's nice.
Yeah,
It's really nice.
Well, tell us a little bit about that, your background and everything, so people know.
Sure. So my background is actually in sports and broadcasting, and I was worked for Agganis Arena at BU. I worked for different TV and radio stations around the country. I left my job at Agganis Arena, and I went to Boston Medical Center, and I worked in their cause marketing department, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I went from the beautiful confines of ComAv to methadone mile, right?
That's a big change.
It was a culture shock, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
How many years ago?
this was 3 years ago.
So it was right in the heart of this whole, when it was just erupting.
Rough, right? So my world was like crazy. And when I got there, my job was to create partnerships with different, companies and stuff. And I started learning about what was going on with the addiction crisis. And I had no idea to the opioid crisis. I had zero idea. I knew that there was talk about it, but I didn't really know. And I kind of had this vision of like, hey, I can help with this because of my background in media to really tell the story. So I started doing research on this, and I know, having a sports background, I started learning that young hockey players were overdosing. There was studies about it that young hockey players, because of the injuries, take painkillers, which then turns into
Addiction.
heroin.
Yeah.
And I have a huge list of them around the country. So I started thinking, okay, let's create a program called, I'm going to get to the point here, but Remove the Mask. And the idea was, let's talk to parents, coaches, and kids about the dangers of addiction and kind of finding that common bond through sports. I got connected with Kevin Stevens, who used to play in the NHL, and Kevin had his own struggles with addiction in recovery, and he had to do these personal appearances as part of his probation. So I said, well, instead of going to talk to like kids in a small amount, why don't we use media as a way to really reach the masses? So we came up with the show Crosscheck, and Crosscheck was originally the show where we had over 90 episodes. We interviewed over 100 people and learned so much about, getting people to come on and share their stories in an informal, casual way. And then, like you said, you were one of our guests, and we're like, we love Chris. She came on, so we were buying radio time on Salem Radio in Quincy on their Christian station. So the Jewish guy on the Christian station was talking about recovery and addiction, but I'm not in recovery, right? So it was a whole thing. And then we moved to WATD in Marshfield to continue.
Yep. And now we're here.
And now we're here.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, my background, I know Chris. I've known Chris for a long time. But for everybody out there, tell them a little bit about your background and how you came to be doing this.
So my story is I didn't pick addiction. Addiction picked my family. We moved here 21 years ago from Nantucket. I have 5 kids. And my older 2 got into drugs when they were in high school. Not by choice. I have what you'd call a dabbler that progressed, and then I have an athlete that got an injury and got introduced to opiates, and from there it just tumbled. And this was 11 years ago. And when this all happened, there really was no discussion. Like, I was the leper in the room, you know what I mean? Nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody knew anything really about it other than that, you know, a heroin addict was that dirty, disgusting person that lived on the side of the street that you cross the street to avoid, you know, the methadone mile people. That's how I was raised. So I had no idea what I was getting into. But what I did know is I had to figure out how I was going to help my kids. And trying to get them into treatment was not helping them. So I had to figure it out. So basically, over the last 8 years, I've educated myself. I've taken all kinds of classes. I've participated in events. I've surrounded myself with people in recovery, and just, you know, I worked in the field for some time now in various treatment centers.
And part of the stakes are high.
Yep, and then the stakes are high is my baby, and that's to raise awareness. So, you know, and now here I am doing just another awareness type of programming, I guess you could say.
Yeah, a lot of the people that are watching this probably remember in September all those flags on the town common.
Yep.
Over 6,000 flags. I mean, that's...
It was actually over 8,000 flags.
8,000?
Yeah. It was like 7,000.
7,800 or something like that.
7,000, yeah. It was like great. Just under 8,000.
I couldn't keep track because there was so many.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's
reported. That's the scary thing. That's reported.
The ones that we know of.
Right. Right. The numbers always changing. I mean, you know, they say CDC says that the numbers can change up to 3 years prior. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
And it's really, you know, what we kind of want to hammer home is that the mental health and addiction affects everybody.
Right.
And like we were talking before the show, somebody's touched by it in some way. Like I was sharing the story, my cousin's girlfriend. She was 27 years old, pretty girl, young lady, you know, 27, right? Shooting fentanyl, and died like 4 days ago. And what was interesting to me is hearing that. It was kind of like, and you could probably answer this too, it's kind of like, is she just one of the numbers of people? Like, have we gotten so anesthetized to the fact that she's just another number?
Statistic.
A
She's a
statistic?
Yeah. So I refuse to allow myself to go numb to it. But these kids, and I consider her a kid at 27, even,
No,
you
she's
know,
a kid.
these kids that are suffering, that are fighting, that are in recovery, they've lost more friends than I've lost, that I probably will lose in a lifetime. You know, when you really think about it, I mean, at my age, I haven't lost a lot of friends. And between my daughter and my son, the amount of friends that they've lost is at least 4 or 5 times the amount of people that I have lost in my lifetime. So, and they're
It's commonplace to lose
a couple of friends, but not at this, you know, we've lost almost a whole generation. And it's still happening.
more than the Vietnam War. We've actually,
You know, like the shift on Facebook right now, everybody was all concerned, and they're still very concerned about the coronavirus, right? And it's gotten all this hype and everything else. And you can see the people that have been advocating and fighting for addiction awareness, and all the money that's being poured into this whole coronavirus and awareness and whatever. It's like, it's still not going to be the amount of people that we've lost to addiction. Where is that awareness? Where is that concern? But that's just, I've given up the political because we're never going to win.
People do, and what we're finding is, and what you find after working and doing this I ended up here, but what I discovered is that corporate America has not gotten on board with this.
No.
As far as, you get, it's not in vogue, right? Whereas you have AIDS, so you have Hollywood around it, and you can get AIDS benefits and things like that. This is something that still has an ugly...
It has a stigma.
It has
we were
a
talking
stigma.
about it earlier.
Yeah.
There's a stigma around it that people don't want to touch it. It's
Don't.
they're doing this on their own. This is all on
It's a
them.
choice.
It's a choice.
Choice.
And that's what we talk
And
about.
maybe it was a choice the first time, but after that,
Right. What people don't understand is the altering of the mind, or the altering of the brain, and where the mental health part of it comes in. So you address the substance abuse, and you get somebody, sober, clean, and they're doing well, and the mental health part hasn't been, addressed. The depression, the anxiety, the whatever it is.
And it's self-medicating.
Then they'll start self-medicating, and before you know it, we're going back to the addiction. And everybody just says, oh, they're just a vicious addict. But really, when you break it down, there's something that's behind the addiction. For most of them, there's been trauma. There has been something that has happened in their lives that they've never addressed. So the mental health side of it never gets addressed. So we just keep recycling this disease because we get them sober, we set them out, their mental health kicks in, and they go back to self-medicating because
The root of the problem.
Right. If you ask them, I use because it makes me feel normal, it makes me fit in, it makes me. They're not addressing the bottom line. Like I work with a family that have lost two kids already. And their third child has been in and out of treatment. And I call the family like survivor syndrome because they're so afraid of losing their third child that they're not enabling, but they're enabling. Like they're not, but what I've seen, the progress, we'll get that person sober, we'll get them feeling good and happy and whatever, and we'll put them in the sober house, and then the depression and the anxiety and the mental health starts to go. And before you know it, they're back to what makes them comfortable. And that's back to the drugs.
do you really think that social media has a big part to play in this? Because when we were kids, there wasn't, you had your problems at school with the parents, but now with social media, there's a lot more. There's bullying, there's people seeing other people with this, and I don't have this, or I don't have all these friends, what's the matter with me? Do you think that's part of it?
Yeah, I mean, there is a study that says, from a depression side of it,
Right.
for sure. There was a study, I think University of Michigan put it out, saying that it is proven that people, from their study, that people do get depressed as a result of it because it's really a highlight reel.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to showcase the best. I'm in the kitchen with hubby baking cookies. Well, you don't want to talk about the fact that he came in the night before drunk, screaming, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
So it's dishonest. I think it's a dishonest
Well, it's
medium.
hard. I mean, families don't want to talk about it. I mean, I met with a family, and the husband is an alcoholic, and he's ashamed, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's been to some of the best places in the country, and they haven't addressed. The first thing he said, he goes, "I'm depressed." I'm like, "So you drink because you're depressed?" Well, alcohol makes you more depressed,
Right.
but alcohol takes away whatever that pain is.
Mm-hmm.
Have you addressed
The reason why you drink.
have you
Right.
addressed the depression? Why are you depressed? And we sat for 2.5 hours and we talked about it, and like he hasn't drank since. Like we've been talking, we talk every day, we check in every day, a couple times a day, and it's just being available for people to have somebody to talk to. everybody's so HIPAA, everybody's so regimented about you can only do this and you can't cross that. That's why, I'm a recovery coach, and I don't recovery coach in any facility because addiction is 24/7, 365. And, these facilities are 9 to 5, and you can't talk to them off, on your time, and you can't, that's what they need. They need somebody to be able to reach out to. And I think there's starting to be a shift, and there's starting to be more availability to people to talk to. But, I don't know, this whole Corona thing, isolation is an addict's
I was
worst
just
enemy.
going to say,
It scares
Agreed.
me. It really scares me.
I agree, and I just want to back up for something on your question about social media. Not only do I think social media has a part to play, I also think general media, mainstream media, because you see things, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we talked about this last week.
Yeah, the media shapes social norms. Mm-hmm. And what you see, it's like, oh, well, you got to have this car. You got to have this car. You got to have this house. You need these clothes. You need all these external things that you think you have to make you happy. So you put financial stress on yourself in order to have that, maybe living above your means. So now you have more stress. How do I cope with the stress? So
Self-medicate.
Is my life happy? Am I happy because, does that fill me up? No, it doesn't, right? It's a fleeting thing. So I think, having more truth in media, I think would actually be,
Yeah, well, we were talking about movies and how movies depict addicts and addiction and addiction and family, and 2 movies, and I actually ended up posting on my page about 2 different movies, Beautiful Boy, and then Ben's Back. So Beautiful Boy is kind of it's about a young man who suffers from addiction, and his dad struggled to get him, but it's kind of the version of the addict's version. And then Ben is Back is a mom trying to fix her son's version. And they're 2 really good depictions of really what an addict goes through and then what a family goes through. So for an addict to watch, Ben's Back, and for the family to watch Beautiful Boy, it kind of gives you almost a whole picture of what life is. People just don't understand it unless you've walked in those shoes.
And also, like you said, it starts with depression. And between drug addiction and suicides, we're seeing more and more young kids turning to both of those because there's so much stress and they need this or they want this and aren't getting this. They need somebody to talk to.
Right.
Between 12 and 17, a very high suicide danger area for kids, which is crazy. But I think the pressures of we got to go here and we got to go here.
You got to fit in.
Yeah, We had that growing up, but it wasn't as fierce as it is now.
Well, you don't have a cell phone.
You don't have a cell phone. You don't have social media. You don't have the internet. We didn't have all that stuff.
Right.
And kids are not. And I think, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because I'm thinking about it. When I was 7, my parents went and took me to see Saturday Night Fever, right? I'll never forget this, right? An R-rated movie. I'm like, why are you taking me to an R-rated movie at 7, right? I'm thinking about this now as like, they didn't shield me from much, right? Like, whether good or bad. I wasn't naive in what was out there in the world. Are kids today, do you think that they may be a little too...
No, I think kids today are just so not kids.
Okay.
They grow up, so
too fast.
Right.
So fast.
We thought, our parents thought we grew up fast. It's exponentially more these days.
Right.
Because of all the media, because of what they see on TV,
When you
what
look
they
at
see
school,
online.
the pressures in school, the MCAS, they teach to MCAS, and you got to be the best, and you got to go to the best colleges, and there's so much. Got to be the Joneses on so many different levels. It's so I don't know how. I try to just let my kids be kids. I wanted them to be kids. Like, I thought I did okay. And I know I did okay. I know now I did okay. When I was in the throes of the disease, I had no idea. I thought I really messed my kids up. But I did okay. They're all good now.
I was gonna say that I forgot what I was. I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, the numbers are there. The sheer numbers are there. We need to have more people understanding what's going on with this. It can't, we can't look the other way, because I can tell you, over the time that I've done this, been doing this with you and also with Kevin, I've spoken to so many moms.
Yeah.
And there's a lady that I had. Oh, I know where I was going with that. But there was a lady that we had on our show, on our radio show. She lost 2 kids in the same night. They were hockey players.
Yep.
They went to a graduation party. They took oxycodone, and they died the same night. And they were good kids. They, were good students. And they died. Can you imagine?
Like, she literally went to one room, and then she went to the basement, and they were both gone.
Wow.
We had a kid on our show from Hanover, Brian McDonald. Great kid. He was an all-scholastic track star.
Yep.
Went on a scholarship to Loyola Marymount. Got caught up. Going to the dentist.
He got caught up. Yeah, he went to the dentist, and then he just fell in love with the feeling. Yeah, he got his wisdom teeth taken out or something, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But there's so many tentacles about this, because the other thing that people don't talk about a lot is this is really a national security issue on a lot of levels too, because you have China, fentanyl's coming in through China.
Yep.
And they promote.
Maybe not now. Do you think everything's like really closed? No.
We always have ways to get drugs into the country,
I
because
wonder.
otherwise we wouldn't have them in the country. There's always ways.
It's crazy. I mean,
Can't build walls to keep things like that out.
No, but there's I've spoken to an author, Sam Quinones, and he wrote the book called Dreamland, which is an unbelievable book about people who, the drug cartel coming in through Mexico, bringing black tar heroin in, and they set up little stores, little heroin stores, and they in secondary cities. So like a Providence would have, not that it's secondary, but a Providence would have one of these things. And these guys will go, they'll give somebody the drugs for free to be the person to go out and do
Be a dealer?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And then they go to, and they'll go over to to methadone clinics and try to hit people up with it. And so it's, so you got the national security side of it, you have the depression, anxiety. I mean, this thing is...
It's out of control.
It's massive.
Another really good movie you made me think about is The Pharmacist. Have you watched The Pharmacist?
No, I haven't.
It's on
Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's just probably 2 hours, I think, maybe, not even. But what it depicts is it's about a dad who's a pharmacist, and his son gets murdered. And he was like going to find out who murdered his son. Well, in the process of finding out who murdered his son, he discovered that his son was an addict. And so I'm not going to tell too much, but so it's that side of it. And then he just uncovers so much, and it's a true story. And it's insane. It's the kind of movie, like, I'll watch it again, because you watch it the first time and you're like, is this for real? And you're going to pick up so much more the second time when you watch it. But it talks about, what, Illinois?
I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see it? Okay.
No.
I think it's in Illinois.
You have to now.
Yeah. But I think it was in Illinois, but
It was in Illinois. I started watching it for a second.
Yeah,
Yes.
in Illinois. And it was like one of those old pharmacists, right? And after his son died, he started noticing these kids coming in at a really young age. And they were coming in for oxycodone, for pain. And he was like, wait a minute. And it was the same doctor. And he was like, wait a minute, what is going on? These are like 25. They're healthy, strapping young men. Why are they coming in? So he went and he started to sit out front of this doctor's office. And she wasn't open till 11 o'clock at night. And the traffic, she'd do 75 people in one night for 4 hours, cash only. And in 1 year, she deposited $2 million, cash. And he uncovered pill mills. This is the starting of the pill mills, because it was so easy to open up one of these pop-up pain clinics.
Yep.
And so like Florida was so rampant with pain
Yep.
with pain clinics. They were on every street corner. That's why Florida had such a horrible problem with it, because
People were driving to
they
Florida.
were driving. Well, people were driving like 600 miles
Yeah.
to hit this person, and it was insane what he discovered. And he was the one and only witness. He documented everything. He audio recorded everything. It was really eye-opening. Like, I mean, to think that this guy uncovered this, how much more is out there that has never been uncovered?
Right.
You know, it's good. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff about addiction if you want to learn about it. But
Well, how can people learn about it?
well, you can go to our website, our
Facebook
Facebook page,
page.
The map, and yeah.
What? And check us out on Foxborough
Fox-
Cable
yep, Foxborough
access. But it's I think it's a labor of love for all of us. Chris is a very dedicated person to this, and it's
So are you.
Thank you. I am. I try. I try. But it's hard. It's hard to learn about this. But I will say, one of the things that, we talk about pain management. I don't know how much time we have left, but pain management is something that is a whole other kettle of fish, because what is it? 6% of the population who takes painkillers longer than a week can get addicted.
Wow.
6%. So the idea that you go to your doctor, like, you need to be an advocate for yourself when you go and your doctor
Or your
says,
children.
"Yeah, what can I do that is not painkiller?"
Or non-narcotic.
Non-narcotic.
There's plenty of non-narcotics
Yeah,
that you
right.
can take.
Yeah.
But the sad thing is these doctors are really pushing. They push. A lot
They've
of them
gotten better
push.
though, right?
They still push. They're like,
But then they cut you off, right? And that's when the
problem
rubber
starts.
yeah,
Right.
because
Yeah.
then they say, well, this is your last prescription. I remember one of my shoulder surgeries, they gave it to me. I was taking it, and I said, well, let me have tramadol, right? Because people think tramadol is not an addictive drug. It is.
it is.
And so I finally got to the point, I'm like, I don't need it. I don't want it. What else can I do? Acupuncture, physical therapy.
Right.
Things like that. And people need to understand that if you take this,
You could be
You're at
addicted.
risk.
Right. They need to provide more information. I mean, so my son went in for surgery because of his shoulder, and he walked out. It was day surgery. He walked out with 30 Vicodin with refills, and the next day, unbeknownst to myself, he called his doctor and was like, "Oh, you know what? I can't take these." And basically, all he did was go on the internet and pick out a few of the severe side effects. And the doctor, at 17, the doctor called him in a new prescription of Percocets. So he had 2 bottles, both refillable, Vicodin and Percocet, and they're $1 a milligram a pill. So when you have 30 pills in your whatchamacallit, or 90 pills in your pill bottle, and they're 30 milligrams, they're $1 a milligram, you're gonna make a lot of money.
right.
Yeah.
And,
lot of money.
Right, so you could take them and you can sell them.
Right.
And buy more.
And
Or
buy more.
or you buy heroin. Depends on what you're doing.
So, and people should not think, oh, well, it only happens it happens in every neighborhood
yeah.
in the country. Regardless
immune.
of, geographic, financial, it's there.
Yep. And
So-
the stuff on the streets right now is really unsafe.
Fentanyl is what's on the streets now, right?
It's in everything. There's pills you buy. You think you're buying a Percocet, and it looks like a Percocet, but it's fentanyl.
So I guess the bottom line is we just got to be very cautious and watch our kids.
Yeah. And don't
Just educate them.
don't do drugs.
And don't do drugs.
Right. Right.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
do drugs because
Don't do drugs, but in all seriousness, I mean, it's a dark subject. People, you can't bury your head in the sand with this, because
Nope.
it's there. And there's so many resources out there too, which is something we do talk about on the map.
Yep.
Oh, well, more reason for people to tune in to Foxborough Cable Access and check out the map and also the Facebook page.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew and Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And everybody at home, thank you for watching Around Foxborough. Have a great day.